Hello and welcome to this new episode of our podcast, Conversations with CEOs. My name is Fazeel Soyfoo. I'm a partner at Andersen in Mauritius, and I'm the host for this series. Today we welcome a very special guest, Dr. Jyoti Jeetun, one of the few women CEOs of large groups in Mauritius. Jyoti is the CEO of the Mont Choisy Group, once a small sugar estate, now a leading real estate development company in the north. Jyoti, welcome to Andersen and thank you so much for accepting our invite.
Fazeel, it's my pleasure and thank you for having me here today.
Jyoti, you've had a very diverse career from sugar to banking to academia, and now you find yourself at the forefront of one of the most important real estate developments in the north of the island, something that can change the face of the north of the island for the next 20, 30 years to come. And this at a critical time of our economy as we're coming out of the pandemic. What are the challenges you face in bringing this project to life?
Numerous challenges, Fazeel. Mont Choisy Group is a fairly nascent company. Although it has a history of 200 years, it was a small sugar estate until about 6 years ago. I joined the company 6 years ago. And there was hardly like 4 or 5 employees in the property development arm and at the group level. Today we are one of the fastest growing and most successful real estate project, completely shaping the landscape in the north. And obviously the challenges that you have for a startup and fast growing company, we live that on an everyday basis. We have a very small team. The situation of a company of our nature requires us to be very lean and efficient, but at the same time we are growing at such a fast rate that it's difficult to keep up with the systems and the structures that you're putting in place are not catching up with the growth that we are going through. So that's one of those challenges, and obviously it's a family company, and I'm often reminded family in bold and capital letters. So it's always very tricky and challenging to be working in a family organization, all the more so in our case where I'm not a member of the family. I'm an outsider and my whole team is not, there's no family member in our executive or employees. So we have to be able to navigate and deliver and produce results. So it reassures the board and the shareholders. And on the other hand, we are a public interest entity. So we have to have all the corporate governance procedures, systems, best practices, which we have put in place. So navigating all of that, and with the pandemic last 2 years, and now with all these inflationary pressures, challenges every day, every week, every year. But having said that, I must say, to be able to establish a vision and a master plan and execute it and see the changes happening, it's one of the most fascinating experience, and I'm really passionate about the changes that we are making and how we're shaping the future in front of our eyes. That's despite all the challenges, every day is a new day, and it's an amazing day every day.
Thank you, Jyoti. Very interesting insights, and I think everyone is really looking forward to seeing what that shape is going to be, how the north of the island is going to be transformed with the developments happening. Developments come with, there's a lot of optimism, but as with everything, there are certain criticisms and we can't get away with criticisms. And let me pick on one or two of them. Sometimes when you talk about high-end real estate development, there's two things that people talk about. One is that it's a one-off short-term sort of project, and the market for that is relatively small. If I look at, for example, the different schemes like IRS and PDS, annually there's about 250 to 300 units of property being sold, which is relatively small. And then the other point is that in contrast to longer term investments, critics would argue it's easy to sell our land to wealthy foreigners, for lack of a better term. What is your view on that?
You know, Fazil, there is a huge misconception about real estate development that it's just the land speculators. And I can understand that. I've been trying to voice out on the reality of this for a long time now. Let's take the case of Mont Choisy Smart City. It's 530 acres of land over the next 25 years, 45 billion rupees of investment, thousands of jobs to be created. When we are not selling land, we are doing real estate development, which is a whole chain of productive sector linked to it. You start with you creating job for consultants, architects, engineers. You employing contractors who are employing thousands of employees. When we were doing the IRS at one time, we had 3,000 workers on site. Can you imagine? 3,000 workers on site working on the various projects. At the moment, we have 7 projects under construction, at least 1,000 workers on site. Now imagine the suppliers, the service providers, and the ripple effect on the economy. All of that adds, an engine for growth. We are not land speculators. We are developing. We are not selling just plots of land. We are building on those lands. Many of our buyers, foreigners, we have foreigners and locals. Many of the foreigners, they come and establish businesses. They are not rich people who just buy a property and it's left empty or the whole year. Many of them are owners and businessmen or entrepreneurs who are setting up businesses or have established businesses in Mauritius. And so the impact of it, bringing the FDI, creating jobs, paying lots of taxes to government, billions of taxes in either VAT and direct taxes, profits and registration duties, etc. Billions is paid in taxes, the jobs that are created, the money that is coming in the country, and the ripple effect of all the people who are living in this estate. If you come to Grand Bay today and the north and everywhere in the island, the hospitality industry, the schools, transport, there's an economy out there from the ripple effect of real estate. So I understand there's a lot of bias and misconception that land or real estate development is all about speculation in land.
Thank you very much, Jyoti, for that very clear sort of analysis of the development of the real estate sector, and thank you for dispelling some of the misconceptions and the myths that often people have in their minds. I want to talk a bit about the marketing of the real estate sector, and a bit more holistically as well in terms of Mauritius as a destination. You've mentioned a number of times that the marketing of the Mauritian destination is key to the development of the real estate sector. I would like to hear from you about your thoughts on the marketing strategy that we have today for the country, again, within the context of us coming out of the pandemic and the other challenges that we continue to face as a country. And let me mention this as well. We've heard a lot recently about the Dubai Expo. There are road shows that have happened recently for the financial services sector in Europe, for example. The way I see it is that there is one common denominator across all of these. If you take our services industries from tourism to financial services and even real estate development, we are looking for foreigners, we are looking to attract foreigners to our country. Do we have the right strategy to do that currently?
I think we have always had a sectoral or fragmented approach to our marketing. As you rightly said, the financial services is doing their own marketing. Tourism through MTPA is doing its own marketing. EDB for the real estate sector and the export sector as well. I have been saying that for a while now. we need to have a one destination marketing philosophy, because as you rightly said, many of our buyers are people who have been coming on holiday year after year, and they like the country, they like the climate, they like the people, and they decide to settle down. So it's a ripple effect. Many of the people who are investing are buying, or people who are buying are investing. So we are all interrelated one way or the other. And it's when you look at other countries, Seychelles, so many other countries today, just watch CNN, the way they are branding their country as one destination. Whereas we are having a very fragmented approach, everyone is doing their own thing. It's not difficult to have one branding covering all the sectors and attracting people to come to Mauritius, whether it's for real estate, for tourism, for business, for financial services, for export. It can all be branded together into one destination philosophy. And unfortunately, we haven't seen that yet. And I hope it is going to come, because I've been saying that for a while now, that we need to have a one destination marketing strategy.
Thank you very much for that, Jyoti. I want to turn our attention to the national budget, which is not far around the corner. But before I do that, I want to talk about last year's budget and some of your views that you had, in fact, before the budget, so around this time last year. And you talk about the pandemic being, I quote, an opportunity to rethink our economic and social model to put in place a national economic recovery program, end of quote. Fast forward a year, we're now coming out of the pandemic. There's been the second wave. Have we grabbed this opportunity in your view?
Fazeel, I think I said that somewhere, that someone had said, I think it's Churchill or someone had said that never let a crisis go to waste. And it was in that spirit that we said, it's really time to put a national economic recovery program, bring all the best brains together and the stakeholders together, and let's put our, have a unified view of how we get out of this crisis and what are the opportunities and how we deal with the new Mauritius, the new vision after the pandemic. I must say that I haven't seen that happening, where all the stakeholders coming together, and everyone doesn't have to agree, but at least we put our brains together and come up with a national level strategy for the different sectors and economic and social issues. And now we have, whether it's a double whammy or triple whammy with the war in Ukraine, with inflation, it's getting worse. So it's still very much the actuality to put our brains together, our best brains together, and come up with a national level strategy, as they did after the World War in the 1940s,
It's very timely that we are having this discussion, because we are only the pre-budget consultations are happening, and perhaps looking forward to this budget, there may be something around what we're talking about. But in terms of your own expectations from the budget, now that we are, again, as I said before, we're coming out of the pandemic, although we've now been hit by different challenges that we didn't expect 3-4 months ago. What are your expectations, Jyoti?
To be quite honest, I wouldn't like to be in the place of the Minister of Finance right now, working on that budget and trying to put all the puzzles together, because it is very challenging right now. And I think it's important that we get, people together and brainstorm. But if I were to focus, I would focus obviously on the investment sectors where there can be productive growth, create jobs. But at the same time, he has to balance all the social side, because people are facing real problem at social level today because of inflation. Life is very difficult. So it's not an easy balance to prioritize what is investment sectors, productive sectors, create jobs, create employment, while at the same time helping those who are, in difficulties today.
Jyoti, finally, I can't end without asking you this question. You are only one of a handful of women CEOs of prominent groups on the island. What is your message to other women who aspire to become leaders of organizations in the same way that you've been?
Fazeel, thank you for asking that question. I think one has to be resilient and believe in yourself and have a strong sense of inner strength. I almost did not go to school. I come from a very poor family. I didn't go to university until I had 2 kids and I was working full time. And I had to, I studied when I was, my daughter was 2 years old and my son was just born. And that's when I started my tertiary education and working through, and then, did my MBA, did my PhD, while working full time all the time. I think the message is that you have to believe in yourself, you have to remain strong. I've come across a lot of, challenges, misogyny sometimes, in my job when I just came, people would tell me, what do you know about development? What do you know about golf? And so you need to believe in yourself. You need to be strong. You need to be able to have such resilience that these things do not affect your morale or your capacity to grow. Your authenticity is very important. The sense of purpose is important. My life has been a lot of struggles, but despite that, and of course having the right family structures around you, your husband, your children, and your wider family, providing the right support. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to who you are and how you deal with the everyday struggles, everyday challenges, and how sometimes you can find yourself in a hole, as I found myself in 2005 in a hole. And I thought, if I keep on pondering on this, my focus should be block out the past and work on the new day and get out of this hole, So I think every time you have those big challenges, you find a way of believing in yourself and getting out of the hole, comme on dit en anglais.
Jyoti, it was a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Fazeel, for having me here. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and join us next week as we talk to another leading CEO in Mauritius. Stay tuned.